Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back. If you've been watching, following the show along with the show for a few weeks now, you're familiar with my guest here. I have Tyrina back with me from tailors Services. Thanks again for jumping on and becoming a regular contributor here. I've been getting great feedback in terms of the advice, the insight that you give. So it would be foolish of me not to welcome you back as often as you're willing to be here. So very much appreciate that you taking the time to do that.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back always.
Absolutely. So you and I had discussed it, moving forward when you're on the show, as a regular contributor, we're going to kind of focus on not just the services you offer, but we'll kind of tackle some of the consistent questions that you and I see from job seekers, since we're on two different sides here as a recruiter and a career coach. The questions we get are similar but different. So since you are the expert on a lot of these things, specifically with resumes, I've said in the past when people ask me for resume advice, my piece of advice is go talk to a resume writer, a career.
Yes.
I don't really know how to help you. I can proofread it and check on any grammatical errors, but other than
Mhm.
that, you want to get someone who has some insight on that. And so resume writing is one of the career services that you offer as a coach. So I wanted to break that down because if people visited your page, they'll probably see that you have some different tiers in terms of the resume writing services that you offer. So starting with the entry level one, because I think that sometimes is the biggest one. People writing their first resume don't really know where to start. You have software systems that will give you templates and they're great guidelines, but they don't always
Yeah.
do favors for you in the long run. So for you, when you're hit with that request of an entry level style resume, what kind of goes into that for you? How do you tailor that resume specifically for someone who's starting out their career early on?
Yeah, that's a awesome question. So, with entry level positions, they're generally for, graduates or people that have no experience in the field whatsoever. And I mean like no transferable skills or any of that. So, but let me be clear as far as entry level is concerned, because I get this a lot. I want to set the record. If you are transitioning into a different field but have transferable skills to create a brand new resume, you are not entry level. I
Mhm.
just want to clear that up because a lot of people inbox me, or when I have my free career consultations, they say I will be more entry level, right? I said, but you don't want entry level money, right? Like you've already been working for some time, especially teachers. That's always just a good role to start with when talking about entry level. Um, Depending on what people are transitioning into, the main reason why you would be entry level is, like I said earlier, you have no transferable skills for the role that you're transitioning to, or you're a new college graduate.
Mhm.
Um, so when we talk about entry level, going into the resume, you still have to have the same main sections on your resume. You need to have a career summary. You need to have a technical skills section. You need to have a core competency section. And then that work experience section, if you don't have any work experience, we need to build on things you've upskilled in, build on the courses that you have taken, build on any education or certifications that you've taken that allow you to be certified for the position. Now, if you do have some roles that you have been doing, we would still highlight it in the work experience section, but we really want to tailor the job tasks to what job that you are applying to.
Mhm.
So, like you stated earlier, you always refer people, talk to a resume writer, talk to a career strategist. There are so many different scenarios out there. I would definitely suggest people reach out to a company like mine, where we give free career consultations, because you may not be entry level, but as far as entry level is concerned, having those main points on your resume is very, very crucial. I feel like the most important part to me as a resume writer and career strategist is that career summary.
Mhm.
Because, and you probably love seeing that as a recruiter, you probably love seeing things. I want to see, a summary of what I'm getting ready to read, you know and then we'll probably talk about cover letters another time, but cover letters are really important for entry level positions, because you can go into more detail as to why the company should give you a chance. With your very first role, you've never done this role before, you don't really have a lot of transferable skills, you don't have a lot of work experience. So, you want to persuade them. You want to persuade them to give you a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I will definitely have an episode on cover letters because I certainly
Yeah.
certainly
Absolutely.
highlight the benefits of that in the future here. So let's go to the other side. The candidates that you're helping who have been in the workforce for quite some time, they have tons of experience. What do you do when coaching them? Because recruiters will often say a page or two for the resume at most, and sometimes they want to put every single thing that they've done on within their career because it is important to showcase these skills, but at the same time you have to be cognizant that most recruiters aren't going to read every 7 pages of your resume. So
Yeah.
when it comes to parsing that down, what is typically your advice when it comes to, bullet points, summarization, when it gets to 10, 15 years ago, how are you coordinating that? And do you ever, I know sometimes employees, if they've been in a position where it just didn't work out a couple weeks, a couple months, and they just want to leave that one off because it doesn't really showcase any relevant experience. So what is the insight that you give in those instances as well?
So with the 10 to 15 years of experience, it is the best rule of thumb to just have, that many years on your resume. You definitely don't want to go further than 10 to 15 years, mainly because you don't want to show ageism. You don't want to be discriminated against if they see your first job was back in 1985 or something like that. So it does happen, along with other things that they can discriminate on, like your name or anything like that. But the best rule of thumb is definitely just the past 10 to 15 years. I actually just had a career consultation. I just had it yesterday, and we were talking, and she said, before I was a teacher, I became a teacher in 2012. And before I became a teacher, I worked at an accounting firm, and she had different roles there. She said, should I highlight this somewhere on the resume for what I'm trying to do next? I said, absolutely. Like, that shows that you have corporate experience, but we still have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
2012 was some time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been a teacher for some time.
Yeah.
So, we can't go back too far, but here are a few ways that you can highlight the past 10 to 15 years. So the first thing that you could do is have an additional experience section where you're just listing the roles that you had previously. And what I mean by list is just listing the company, the title that you had, and the time frame that you worked there. You can also, again, my favorite section of the resume, the career summary, you can expound on transferable skills that you gained at that previous position in the career summary. But you still have to just explain your transferable skills briefly. Okay. And then, of course, the cover letter as well. You can do that on the cover letter and expound on it a lot more on that document, as far as anything past past the past 10, 15 years. But the career summary, and also the area of expertise as well, because that highlights your core competency skills, like why you're competent for the job.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to just put enough in the resume so they're inviting you to the interview so that they can ask more questions about, I see that you've worked at this accounting firm, you worked there, before you were a teacher. Can you expound on that a little bit? Like, what did you do there? So it could definitely be a way for them to gain the employer's attention, highlighting it somewhere on your resume, and then that'll prompt them to bring you in for an interview and say, wow, like you weren't just a teacher. You did things, past being a teacher as well.
Yeah.
Now, to tackle the question about uh when people have like short-term jobs, like 2, 3 weeks or a few months. Now, again, the resume writer would really determine, if it's necessary to put on the resume. A lot of people, they rather leave it off.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's been a few months and you're currently still in that position, I would definitely consider leaving it on there because it closes some employment gaps. It shows that you try to transition and, you're trying to see like where your footing will land.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But even if it's like positions in the past that were only like a couple of weeks or a few months, technically, if you're not in that position, you don't have to put it on the resume. But it's good to put on the resume if there's a huge gap between employment. So again, it's case by case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions I commonly get, and I know you work with a lot of transitioning teachers too, and I've been in some groups, I've been part of some discussions, and they'll ask about the things that they've accomplished over their career in education. And I always tell people that I don't give much resume advice. The piece of advice is that your resume is not your time to be humble. You know, talk about what you've
Yes.
achieved, talk about what you experiences you have, and really showcase everything that you've done that you're proud of in your career. But when it comes to education and you're required to do these different certifications and required to go to these different courses, or you win these different awards that are great and certainly something to be proud of, but not always relevant to the resume, to the new job you're trying to transition to. So what is typically your guidance in that sense when people ask you about my key accomplishments that I've achieved outside of work? Do I put that on? Do I leave it off? Do I put like my schooling, my degrees? You know, some people have med behind their name. Do you
Yeah.
leave that on? Things like that. What is typically the guidance there?
Well, you definitely don't want to leave off MD. You
Right.
you you want to, what they say, put some respect on my name.
Right.
You never want to leave that off first and foremost. But in my opinion, I feel like all achievements, awards, and certifications are important. But I would say, as far as the certifications, that especially the ones that make you qualify for the role, especially like if you're going for project management, of course, put that on there.
Mhm.
Um, and even with working with teachers, we still put their teaching certifications and licenses and all of that. We leave that on there. But if it's something that you feel doesn't align with the role, again, I would speak to a career strategist or resume writer about your specific situation. But the example that I had was, at a certain point when I was in college and high school, I was on the National Honor Society.
Mhm.
That's not on my resume anymore. I don't
Right.
need to put that on my resume at this point. I'm not going to say what year I graduated, but a situation like that, you don't technically really have to have that on your resume. But awards that you've gotten as a teacher, leadership awards, um, recognition awards, like that is super important because that gives them an idea of the kind of person that you are
Mhm.
before they invite you to an interview. I love reading about awards and certifications that people are continuing to upskill and gain, and also achievements. Now, I want to sit on the achievements part of that a little bit, because a lot of the people that we work with are going for, higher income,
Mhm.
higher salary. And I did speak on this some time ago on my page. So if you aren't following me yet on LinkedIn, please connect with me, because I do give a lot of tips on specific situations or questions like this. When it comes to achievements, especially if you're going for like leadership positions or management positions, it is essential to highlight anything that you've done, that you've achieved, that show your leadership skills. And there is a section that I wanted to talk about called the career highlight section.
Mhm.
And that section is a section that goes, closer to the top of the resume before the work experience section, where there are statements that you put on your resume showing these high level achievements that you've done, so that you can, get the salary that you desire,
Mhm.
and that also goes to saying, if you have like a long resume, there is a way that you can, make the information more concise, right? But highlighting 3 or 4 accomplishments that you've had in your teaching career, especially if it's related to leadership, or that handled a situation or a project or something that you were, assigned to, is amazing to highlight on your resume,
Yeah.
especially at the top. And like I said before, like I know as a recruiter, you love seeing sections like that, because if a person is applying to a manager position or any type of leadership position, it's important to highlight things that you've done on that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit too. And I'm going out of order in the questions I sent you
It's
here, but
okay.
one of them we talked about, and when you're making these bullet points and breaking down what you did at the job you previously held, work achievements versus work responsibilities. So, what do you typically encourage your candidates and clients to do? Is it a mix of both? Put both of those things on there because you also don't want to be too wordy with everything that you have under each bullet point. So, what is typically the guidance there in terms of successes that they've had versus just the nuts and bolts of what they were doing?
Well, I would definitely say both.
Okay.
You wanted to do both, a good mix. Here at T Lassiter Services, the formula that we follow is you want to highlight what you did, how you did it, and what was the result or the outcome of the task. This is where those metrics come in. So even having metrics in the task shows a level of achievement. You know, this is what you did. These are the tools that you use to do it. And this was the outcome. You know, this is what I did for the company. This is what I improved, or if it was a negative thing, like help decrease this. You know, and you can, like I said, you could do a mix of both in one sentence, or you can do, you know, every other. You know, you do not have to have metrics in every sentence and every task. A lot of people, they, you know, especially when they're transitioning from, you know, certain roles that didn't really have a lot of metrics, it's hard for them to create a resume and create a work experience section that has metrics if they don't have any, you
Right.
know. But you can also use measurable words like increase, like I said earlier, increase, decrease, improved. You know, you can say words like that as well. But we always want to put the outcome of whatever you're doing. It is, you do not want your resume to speak like a job description. And a
Mhm.
lot of people just copy and paste the job description of a previous role into their resume, and that is a huge no-no. Recruiters, hiring managers, they want to see, okay, you did this. How did you do it? And what was the outcome?
Mhm.
And either that the outcome can include a metric, or, you know, just a measurable word.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Now, when we started the conversation here, I had alluded to people just starting creating their resumes, and there's different templates you can use. Some people use Microsoft Office, some people use Canva. I know some people use Adobe. So I know the big thing is trying to make your resume stand out. A recruiter is sometimes going to get hundreds of resumes for one job posting. So you want to be catchy, but there's that fine line between being unique, creative, and being over the top. So when it
Yeah.
comes to the creation and design of the resumes, are there specific formats that you try to guide them to follow? Are there any that kind of stand out to you as best practice to fit in the information that you need, still be catchy, but not like, rainbow font or, large
Yeah.
images across and things that are going to catch the eye and not do much else?
Yeah. So I will say the first thing that comes to mind is, as far as the formatting, we could talk about that before we get into templates. So the formatting, we always like to go with the traditional streamline format. You know, the contact information at the top, and then when you get down to the work experience, chronological order. Now, depending on what you're going with, we do mix like functional with chronological, and functional is more in the paragraph form.
Mhm.
Chronological is the bullet point form. Uh, we do this mostly with leadership positions, like doing a mix of both, because we like to give like a brief synopsis of what the person did at the job, and then we go into like, you know, a few bullet points.
Right.
But as far as that format, the chronological, traditional streamline, that is what we usually go with. Unless we get a client who is going for like graphic design, then we get a little jazzy, you
Right.
know, with it. Social media strategist, content creator, like you can get, you know, just a little jazzier with that. But you want
Hiring
to be
manager probably
careful.
wants to see that there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to see, you know, different colors. They want to see your personality, and, you know, and along with that, and we'll probably talk about this on a later show as well, you know, having a portfolio.
Mhm.
You know, you could put your link at the top of the portfolio. Now, when we get into the templates, this is always a fun topic because there's so much different information that people spill out on LinkedIn. And The main thing that people have to consider is if your template will be ATS friendly. You have to just assume that the company is going to use ATS to filter through, or be included in the hiring process for their company. So at T. Lassiter Services, we have a plethora of templates that we have created, that we have designed for different industries in mind. And it's okay to have a pop of color. We use shaded texts, shaded boxes. We love doing that.
Mhm.
But we also want to make sure that the template speaks to you, your personality, as well as the industry. So when I do the consultations and if people say that they're interested in hiring a writer, then we'll go into, services. But every now and then I do show them, some templates, and they're very impressed with the templates that we've created. Now, as far as being too showy, like it definitely depends on what your situation is.
Mhm.
If you are transitioning to or continuing to excel in leadership positions, it's always good to show enough information that shows that you are qualified for the role. So that template, as far as formatting, may include that career highlights section.
Mhm.
We don't always include a career highlights because, like I said, it depends on what level of the role it is. But having that pop of color, being careful with the fonts, don't get too jazzy with the fonts. But having those unique features, we love doing that. And my team is very proficient with ATS. So if anyone who's watching this, they want to use a certain template, but they're not sure, click the link on the top of my LinkedIn page. Let's set up a free career consultation so that we can look at your resume and see if it will go through ATS. We have our own applicant tracking software here at T. Lassiter Services as well. So we make sure that our templates work, and they do. You can read our recommendations, read our reviews. You can go on my website, www.tlassiterservices.com, and click the banner at the top and read our case studies. We have always test when we're making new templates, which we do all the time. We're always testing them, making sure that they go to ATS. But you can definitely get a little jazzy or, have a pop of color on the resume, but it still needs to be corporate. You
Mhm.
need to make sure that it still looks professional. You're using the appropriate colors. And we just like to show people's personalities as well when it comes to the resume templates.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And most hiring managers will want to see that too. They're
Yeah,
hiring a person at the end of the day. So
yeah,
don't be too afraid to let your personality shine through a little bit there.
absolutely. Just no pictures. No pictures. I've seen so many teacher resumes with pictures. Leave the pictures off, please,
They,
everyone.
they can visit your LinkedIn profile if they really want to know what you look like. You don't have to do
Absolutely.
that
And
stuff.
you can put that LinkedIn profile link right at the top.
Yeah, for sure. So last question I have, and we've kind of scratched the surface on this last time you were on, where we
Mhm.
said we're going to dig into resumes a little deeper. And you had said that the main thing, it was very important to know what you have on your resume, be able to talk about the experiences and things that you've listed. So with that in mind, there are a lot of candidates I've seen that try to create and tailor their resumes specific to the jobs that they're applying to at times. Not everyone does this, and I know it's probably
Right.
a tedious task if you are. So if you're taking that time, then tip of the cap to you for having that dedication. But do you typically recommend that type of thing, given the amount of knowledge that you should have about your resume, to have so many different formats of it to apply for different roles, different companies, things in that nature?
Well, one of the reasons why we've had such great success with getting more attention to our clients' resumes is we're tailoring the resume to more than one position.
Mhm.
Our standard is creating master resumes. So when we create a master resume at the beginning of the process, when someone hires us, we ask them for more than one job role that they want to apply to that they have transferable skills for.
Mhm.
And I could actually, give this tip as well while we're talking about it. It is great to have, the title of the roles that you're applying to at the top of the resume, because ATS, that's one of the things that it scans for. It looks for the job title somewhere on your resume. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah.
But we create master resumes so that if our clients just want to use that one resume for each job role, they can do that. or it makes the process easier for them to create multiple resumes if they would like. They can literally, just take off the one title, create another resume, change up some of the core competencies for a different role. You should not have to touch the experience section. The reason why we ask for so many for more than one job role at the beginning of the process is so that we can tailor each of your job tasks to those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of my clients, they don't have to create multiple resumes. They just have the one. It makes the process a lot easier, but you can if you would like. But it's with our processes and our standards, you really don't have to create multiple resumes if you don't want to.
Okay. All right. So then, as always, the last thing before we end it is take some time, tell people where they can find you, the different services that you offer, and then we'll wrap things up.
Absolutely. So, of course, you can reach me here on LinkedIn. I know Matt's going to tag me, so definitely follow me. Send me a private message if you have some questions about your career. We can definitely set up a meeting. You can also go to the website www.tlasserservices.com and check out all of our services. We have resume services, a bunch of tiers, entry level, mid level, executive level. We also do interview coaching, we do career coaching, and we also do LinkedIn optimization as well. That usually goes hand in hand when getting your resume updated because a lot of people use LinkedIn to find work.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also follow me on Instagram at The Career Navigator.
All right. Well, thank you again for jumping on here with me. Looking forward to our next discussion and you providing some more valuable insight. But otherwise, if you're watching and listening, have a great week and we will see you on next Monday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.